Where are the other 9? That's Jesus' question in this traditional Thanksgiving Day gospel passage. Where are the other 9? Well, for the first time in 39 years of celebrating Thanksgiving Masses, I finally discovered why the other 9 didn't bother to come back. Why do you think? Well, the 10 that were healed plus Jesus equals 11. That would have been above the maximum Thanksgiving gathering of 10 set by Governor Pontius Pilate. So that's why only one came back, avoiding the crowd. You've probably seen lots of memes about the 10-person limit for Thanksgiving. And in many, many ways, it does make good sense to be extra careful and as safe as possible with the spiking of the coronavirus cases. Nevertheless, the jokes about the 10-person rules are pretty creative, like the one featuring Leonardo da Vinci's famous Last Supper image of Jesus and the 12 disciples. And the quote says, "If the governor finds us, this will be our last supper." Or the same iconic Da Vinci picture with the caption, "There are 13 of us here. 3 of us have to leave." Fortunately, for this Eucharistic meal, we can have 50% capacity. Nobody has to leave this table. And like the one leper who returned, healed, I think we can say that we represent many others who recognize the necessity to be grateful for what we have, even though life and the things of life aren't perfect by any means, especially in 2020. Life is always a mixture of good and bad, of blessings and curses. Recently, a parishioner sent me a little reflection on that, a reality that I like to digress for a moment and share with you. And he called it not the 10 Commandments, but the 10 facts of life. And this is what the reflection says. Number 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth and populated the earth with broccoli, cauliflower, and spinach, green and yellow and red vegetables of all kinds, so the man and woman would live long and healthy lives. Number 2, then, using God's great gifts, Satan created Ben & Jerry's ice cream and Krispy Kreme donuts. And Satan said, "You want chocolate with that?" And man said, "Yes." And woman said, "As long as you're at it, add some sprinkles." And they gained 10 pounds. And Satan smiled. Number 3, and God created the healthy yogurt that woman might keep the figure that man found so fair. And Satan brought forth white flour from the wheat and sugar from the cane and combined them. And woman went from size 6 to size 14. Number 4, so God said, "Try my fresh green salad." And Satan presented Thousand Island dressing, buttery croutons with garlic toast on the side. And man and woman unfastened their belts, following the repast. Number 5, God then said, "I have sent you heart-healthy vegetables and olive oil to which to cook them." And Satan brought forth deep-fried fish and chicken-fried cutlets so big it needed its own big platter. And man gained more weight, and his cholesterol went through the roof. Number 6, God then created a light, fluffy, white cake and named it angel food cake. And he looked at it and said, "It is very good." Satan then created chocolate cake and named it devil's food. Number 7, God then brought forth running shoes so that his children might lose those extra pounds. And Satan gave cable TV with a remote control so that man would not have to toil changing the channels. And man and woman laughed and cried before the flickering blue cable light TV and gained pounds. Number 8, then God brought forth a potato, naturally low in fat and brimming with nutrition. And Satan peeled off the healthy skin, sliced the starchy center into chips, and deep-fried them. And man gained pounds. Number 9, God then gave lean beef so that man might consume fewer calories and still satisfy his appetite. And Satan created McDonald's and its 99-cent double cheeseburger, then said, "You want fries with that?" And man replied, "Yes," and supersized them. And Satan says, "It is good." And man went into cardiac arrest. Number 10, God groaned and created quadruple bypass surgery. Then Satan created the healthcare system. Amen. And it goes on to say, if you don't send this to 5 old friends right away, there will be 5 fewer people laughing in the world. So, I think it's very important to keep a perspective of hope and gratitude in our world. Our world is always filled with its mixture of good and evil. So, with all that's happened already in 2020, with its mixture of ups and downs, are there less reasons to be thankful this Thanksgiving than in other years? Are there less reasons? I think the very fact that we're here, there are even more reasons. Because, we've survived even though we've lost loved ones, even though we've lost a sense of security and trust in our church and our government. We're getting through this. And when you look back at the history of the human race and see that it is dotted with plagues and epidemics and pandemics, we know our history tells us that we will get through. It won't be easy, but that we will get through together and with God's grace. We're here today to, as the scriptures say, to make a return to the Lord. The Samaritan returned to Jesus with overt thanks, not so much for the cure, but for being allowed to know who God really is. So this is the beautiful gospel that we always have on Thanksgiving Day, and I read it differently than in years past, and I focus today on Luke's line, quote, "Keeping their distance. Keeping their distance, the lepers approached Jesus." Isn't that an interesting segue into Thanksgiving 2020? All of that takes on new meaning this year, filled with this mixture of blessings and curses. The lepers who were both Samaritans and Jews, were already quarantined. They were quarantined, they were in isolation by virtue of their situation, by virtue of their disease. They were a sad group that banded together outside of the villages for mutual protection and companionship. Another connection. They respectfully kept their distance from Jesus. Ordinarily, Jews and Samaritans avoided, in fact, hated each other. But misery sometimes dissolves boundaries, and with a common affliction uniting them, these lepers, these Jews and Samaritans, could get along with each other. They got along to survive. They got along to get through life. And Jesus' compassion reaches out to them. Interesting, Jesus respects the rules of religion and government. And he tells them to go and show themselves in the temple so that they can be certified as healed and no longer in need of isolation and quarantine. Does that sound familiar? It's like the COVID test certification. You need to get it to go to grandma's house for dinner tonight. I had one yesterday. Negative, thank God. So, the 9 run off from the temple, caught up in their own new stories. They have lives to live now, and they don't want to look back. They just want to keep going, wherever they're going. Lots of people want to run away from the year 2020. It's understandable to a great degree. Only one, stops, turns around, and thinks beyond himself, as we are doing today. He praises God and he thanks Jesus. And Jesus can't figure out where are the other 9. He would have liked to have seen some fellow Jews doing the same thing, perhaps. But he certainly appreciates the thanks of number 10 anyway. And so in answer, Jesus assures number 10 that his faith has saved him. At that first level, it means that he has been healed. He no longer needs to quarantine and be in isolation and suffer those afflictions. But there's a problem here. All 10 were healed. All 10 were saved from, you might say, perpetual pre-COVID quarantine in that sense. So how can this one Samaritan be any better off than he already was after Jesus healed him? How is he better off? He's saying he's healed too, but how is he better off than the others? Some studies into the pandemic suggest that those who suffer the multiple effects of COVID-19 can find healing more easily and more strongly when they have faith in a God who loves them and is concerned about them. That's what brings us here today. That's what brings people into God's presence. The Samaritan took the time and the effort to have this personal relationship with Jesus that the other 9 didn't have time for. And so by doing that, he experienced a new depth of care and concern that Jesus was just waiting to give, calling him out of isolation, out of quarantine, out of social distancing, out of the past. The one who will look back in gratitude is healed at a deeper level because he believes and responds to the compassion and the love of Jesus. And so together there is this connection. There is this bond. There is this dignity of risk, as one physician, parishioner here at Cure calls it, the dignity of risk of reaching out in trust. A lot of people are asking, what's going to happen next with the pandemic, with politics, with the church stuff, with business stuff? What's going to happen? Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get much worse? Well, who knows? But we're here today because we don't have crystal ball answers, but because we trust that whatever life, whatever the world, whatever things can throw us, whatever the devil can conjure up to seem to make good things into not as good things, whatever mixture of blessings and curses remain for this year and beyond, God will get us through. That's why we're here. It's very interesting, and I think very important to meditate on the reality that this Samaritan, number 10, who came back healed and grateful, still had a very long road ahead of him, even as he held that negative leprosy certificate in his hand. There was a whole new world out there for him to navigate tomorrow, as there likewise is for us in the wake of 2020. Nevertheless, today we give thanks. We give thanks for the blessings of life, the blessings of faith, the blessings of one another. So returning to the opening question, where are the other 9? It doesn't really matter. Jesus doesn't dwell on the 9 who shortchange themselves by their failure to give thanks. He appreciates the Samaritan's gratitude, and he reciprocates with those wonderful, liberating words. Stand up and go, your faith has saved you. Our faith will get us through whatever happens next, be it negative or positive. Our mission, so, then, is to be as attentive as possible to the words, stand up and go. Our faith will get us through. And when we believe that, as we do being here, we can truly say to each other today, Happy Thanksgiving.